When you are able to share a little bit of who you actually are, you're going to build that thing called trust. You're going to bring in so many more people because they are open to listening to you because you've been generous with who you actually are.
Welcome to Shift, an exclusive podcast by DSN. I'm your host, Blake Mallen, and this is where high-performing entrepreneurs and experts share their most powerful shifts in mindset, skill set, and strategy to help you accelerate your business and amplify your impact. I challenge you to be present, open your mind, and let the shift begin.
Welcome to Shift. I'm your host, Blake Mallen, and today's guest is someone who's built not just businesses, but movements. She entered the world as a direct selling entrepreneur at 23 and became one of the youngest top earners in her company at that time by 26 years old. Fast forward, she has now spent the past 15 years helping build thousands of people and transform their lives through leadership, community, and brand building. Matter of fact, she's known for creating a thriving personal brand kind of before it was cool and trendy. We'll talk a lot about that. And for turning that brand into really a global platform for empowerment and growth. Today, she continues to redefine what modern leadership looks like through her company and her personal platform. And I love how she's just guided by faith, high family values, you can really feel has a deep desire to help others live in alignment with their purpose. And her mission is to show that success built on authenticity not only lasts longer, but it feels better. Please help me welcome to the show, Emily Ford. Emily, how are you?
I am fabulous, Blake. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. I'm excited for this conversation today. I know you've been traveling all over the place. Your business is thriving, and I just appreciate you spending some time with all of us to pour into us today.
I'm truly honored, and I love that you do this.
Well, let's dive into it. I know you and I have had kind of like some casual conversations over the years, have some mutual friends we know and love in the space. And I know you've had such a awesome journey and actually a very unique journey. So look forward to kind of unpacking pieces of that today for our audience. But for those that don't know your background, kind of don't know, why don't we kind of start there? What got you started in this crazy world of direct selling 15 years ago? And maybe my real question, Emily, what has kept you here over the last 15 years, wherever you want to begin?
Yeah, that's so good. Well, it's interesting because I feel like direct selling is really all I've ever truly known as a true professional because, I grew up in a small town in Minnesota, raised by a single mom. And after high school, I didn't know what I wanted. And I worked multiple jobs. I was like a nanny. I worked for one of the top plastic surgeons. I competed in fitness. I did like 3 different things, bought a house, had women live with me to pay the mortgage. Like I was a hustler, but I didn't have true mentorship, guidance, and I didn't have the right vehicle. And that's what led me into joining my first direct selling company was the wellness sector, being so passionate about fitness. I dove in, and how you do anything is how you do everything. I was like, oh, well, if I really want to crush this, I need to be really serious about it. So I moved in with my mentor in Minneapolis, Minnesota. We unplugged the TV. She was 10 years older than me at the time. So I was 23.
Oh, wow.
And I just learned the skills. And, I remember the hardest thing for me was closing the sale. I was so afraid to do that. A lot of money mindset things going on at the time, but I was committed to it and built out the Midwest. And, in my first year, it was so difficult. I remember wanting to quit 100 times over again and hardly making enough money, being like, is this actually worth it? But then that compounding over time and truly building a network, that's what allowed me to then see momentum into my second and then third year and then actually become a professional at it. So that's really all I've ever known is direct selling.
I love that. 15 years is a good amount of perspective. And without knowing your entire story, I've been around long enough that I know in 15 years, there's going to be highs, there's going to be lows, there's going to be seasons, right? It's long enough to go through all of the things we go through as entrepreneurs. So, maybe distill it down to the top 5% and kind of bottom 5%. So like if you extract the 15, we have the top 5% moments like joy and happiness and feeling and all the things. And then, maybe sometimes we don't talk enough about maybe the bottom 5% moments when we're like in it and the stuff that maybe we're afraid. Give us a glimpse. Like what's one thing that comes to mind, one of your kind of top moments? What did that feel like? And if you're willing to share the other side, like what's one of the moments along your 15 years that was like that valley moment, and what got you through it?
Yeah, well, I think it was like 2013 when we started to get that hyper growth momentum. It was a different time online. I feel like you could post and people would just join your business. I remember our events, like we would have Tony Robbins come in, Maroon 5. I mean, it was larger than you were stupid if you didn't do it. It felt easy. Looking back, I didn't realize that. And it's like we gained that momentum and it was like a freight train. And there's so much that I wish I would have done during that period. But again, I didn't know. I just thought it would always be like that, And so we were just flying and without really having to work as hard. Mm-hmm. And once things like flatlined and then they started to decline a little bit and things got hard, that's where for me, I was like, wait, people just leave? I don't understand. We're a family. And it was so foreign to me that people would just leave. And I'm going to give more context to that. So it was like having business partners that you've built with for many years and you've been to their house and you've literally slept in their guest bedroom and you've built things together. And what was the weirdest thing to me that I didn't know was that one random day they would just go on Facebook and announce they're leaving and then just take everybody out of the Facebook pages. And I just don't play that way. I'm a communicator, even if it's very hard. And I remember, Blake, just feeling completely blindsided. And, I didn't realize how normal that is in the profession, I guess, sadly. But for me, I'm like, it really took me out because I love people and relationships. And it wasn't even about someone is leaving that's taking half your team. It was the principle of, oh my gosh, we had a relationship and you didn't even talk to me. And so it was those types of things that really made me question the profession. Do I want to stay in it? I'm like, I don't know other businesses that people would just do this. Why are they so amateur? And it really hurt and, caused that panic. But it's such a blessing because it caused me to never rely on anybody and just constantly be, cushioning the depth and all that stuff and not to camp out on anybody in the organization.
It's interesting as you're describing that. I'm in my own mind. I'm like, you're absolutely right. I've never seen a social media post of someone in their traditional career being like, I'm leaving my job and I'm going over here, or even in the gig economy, right? There's nobody's like, I'm ditching Uber and joining Lyft. It is kind of unique, right? To really community marketing, and it is interesting and it does hurt because like you kind of highlighted at the root of what we do, it is real relationship and real friendships, right? And real partnerships that hopefully get developed. So I feel what you're saying, that it can hurt when you're going through kind of that first season. Go deeper there real quick, because I'm sure there's listeners on here that are nodding their head being like, oh, I remember going through that for the first time. And I'm sure there's also people that are like, oh, wait, I've never had to go through that. So fast forward to where you're at today, how do you emotionally handle those situations? What do you tell yourself when you're having to deal with that? And is there any guidance you would give the listeners that have gone or will go through seasons like that on how they can get through it?
Yeah, you learn how to be a tough cookie. I don't know how else to say it. And it's you have to keep watering your own grass, and anybody that joins you, it's such a blessing, but you have to learn to not camp out on them and rely on them. And I think sometimes in this type of business, there's like this kumbaya, like we're all family, love, and I'm all about that, but it can kind of make people get really comfortable. And so what I learned from that is don't get too comfortable and always be recruiting and always be, making sure that you're bringing in enough good leaders that if someone were to leave that provided a lot of volume, sure, it's going to impact you, but it's not going to take you out. And so what it did for me is it made me a lot tougher and made me realize, okay, I'm still going to build this business with love and compassion, but I also need to put my armor on at the same time and, keep going and not get too comfortable. And I think that's what I had seen in the profession and even in my company, where a lot of people were just kind of camping out because they built in that hyper growth stage. And it's like, no, like you can't camp out. You got to keep building it if you want to sustain and grow your income.
I know you're in a thriving place, right? You're in this kind of like momentum and magical place, this building place, which is awesome. So for everybody listening, it's not like Emily's, she's had success in the past, had success at an early age, had success through, but like very current credibility. But beyond talking about like the fun stuff and the successful stuff, like my real question for you, like, was there ever a moment where like you did almost throw in the towel? You're like, enough is enough. Like you were down, like doubt was getting the best of you. Have you always had the mindset to keep going and it was easy, or was there ever a moment where like you questioned?
Definitely a big moment. I call it my messy middle season, where, it was almost like my identity was my company, not knowing anything in the business world or ever creating any kind of wealth, and then doing it all in one company and being a company girl. I served on the field advisory board. I was highly involved in leadership development. I traveled to the UK, to South Korea, company girl. And so when things shifted in that particular company, I like lost my identity for a minute. I was like, what do I do? Who am I? Like, I went through all of it. And so I really grew as a woman, and I had to kind of strip it all away and to go to the water, so to speak. I, live in Southern California, to really sit there and go like, what is all this worth? And I literally was like, what else can I do in the entrepreneur world? Mm-hmm. And so I started to build my personal branding business, and I just, kind of put direct selling, and I'm like, love it. It made me who I am, but I'm so over it, and I'm done. And that's really what I did the last handful of years. And I looked around and I saw what was happening in the profession, and it broke my heart a lot. And I know that it needs strong leaders like you, Blake, that are level-headed, that know what they're talking about. But being so close yet so far, and kind of watching things change economically, leadership changes, I was like, I don't know if I want to be a part of this. I'll be honest, like, not my circus, not my monkeys. But I had the wrong mindset, I think.
Just to rewind real quick, because when you said you kind of looked at it as your messy middle season, like that super resonated with me, and super, just to be direct, I was on the DSN stage last week, 2 weeks ago. We had, DSN did kind of its event with the executive community, hundreds of companies in the room. And I used those exact words, Emily. And I was talking about how like I felt this year, more through the personal stuff, but also through the professional stuff. Like I feel like I'm in kind of a messy middle. And I could feel with the audience in the room, who are obviously executives and C-suite of most companies. I mean, product companies, service companies, domestic companies, global companies, small companies, big companies. But the reality is, I think most of the time as an entrepreneur, we do live in the messy middle, right? Like it's somewhere between like totally breaking down and wanting to break through. Like we live in this middle piece most of the time. So I'm curious, when you were in kind of that season as you defined it, was there anything that you really learned about yourself or about the way you show up, right? Or about the way you want to lead, more from like a personal awareness or growth perspective, like from that season?
Oh my gosh, there's so much. I mean, I could write a book on it. Well, it's just like having my pride and ego die. It sounds strange, but it's when you are like top in a company and you're so used to like being fanfared, and it was really healthy and absolutely needed for my ego and my heart, and to strip it all away and like who am I without the titles, and what actually is my my zone of genius, my gifts, my talents. Like it caused me to really go inward of what am I good at and what do I want to do, and have like deep introspection, because when I started this whole thing, I needed to pay my bills. I mean, I was so young, I didn't start it being like, I want to live life on purpose. Like, no way. I was like, I just want to, live life on my terms. And so, yeah, it caused me to go so inward and kind of strip everything away, and go much deeper with my faith as well, and really rely on God of like, what does he actually want me to do with my life and my time and talent? And then just really explore like different ways to make a living. And that's what led me back here, because I do love it. And it's a genius plan.
It's the truth. It kind of sucks that it works this way, but it's like you go through pain, and if you make it through it, like you do find that purpose word that you just said, or, you find a greater level of power when you go through it. I wish you didn't have to go through the messy middle seasons or the painful seasons to kind of unlock the level up, but it seems to be the pattern. My question for you is like, and again, I'm focused on this season. I know you're now living on the other side of it in a different place, but maybe because of what you learned and grew, right? Through all of that. How'd you lead through it? What guidance do you give to somebody that maybe feels like they're in the struggle, they're navigating the hard, right? Yeah. They're feeling the stuff, they're having the doubt. How do you lead while you're in the middle of learning yourself?
For me, I really needed to make a decision. I think indecision is the absolute worst place to be, because you will beat yourself up every day. It's like you're in or you're out. And that's where I did make a decision to really create and take a pause from direct selling. And then from there, that's when I went through the examination period of, do I really want this to be done type of thing? And all the things like, am I better than this? Am I this? I mean, like, it's what happens. And you have to also be mindful of who you listen to, who you take advice from. I play also in the business world, in the speaking world. And it's interesting because so many people I share stages with, like, they got their start in direct selling. They created their wealth in direct selling. I also was examining like other ways to make money. And I'm like, they have to be on a plane or on this stage in order to make money. And I'm not so sure, like, what are we doing? And so it's almost like I got into the other arena and I'm like, no, I actually want both. I want to be able to go speak and impact, but I want to be in direct selling as well. And so my whole point of bringing this back is like, sometimes you have to dip your toe into the other side to see, like, is it going to be something that you want, or is it all that it's cracked up to be? And for me, it's like, okay, I saw what I needed to see. I know what I believe, and I know how I created my first, huge momentum and freedom. So I'm going to go back to that.
I'm curious your take on where we're at as a direct selling community worldwide right now. You know, if you kind of zoom out and look at the macro, like as a type of business, right, as a channel, you know, we're kind of in this maybe messy middle as a channel, right? We're kind of in this reinvention or season of shift as a channel. What's your crystal ball? Like, what are you feeling right now? How's it evolving? Where are we going? What's the future look like?
Yes.
What are you thinking?
Well, you know, I am deeply passionate about marketing. I have a marketing agency. I create brands. And I just wish I could help everybody's marketing, like truly, to appeal to whoever their avatar is. So I think with direct selling, a lot of people are like, we're here to help everybody. And it's like, dude, if you speak like that, you're going to actually serve no one. Like, who is your avatar? And then you need to create products and market them from the packaging to the verbiage on the website that is for that avatar. You know, it's much different if I'm trying to get my grandma to get on auto ship, or if I want, you know, a millennial to be on, right? Like, and she wants this to sit on her counter and needs to look a certain way. And so looking at the marketing, looking at the messaging, I think a lot of people have not truly invested in that. And that goes such a long way. Sometimes people buy things simply because how they look and how it reinforces what they want to feel and see about themselves, their identity. That's like branding, marketing. So there's that element of it, but then making sure that the pay plans are modernized to reward the sellers that don't understand or have the bandwidth or the leadership ability or just the desire to build the teams, right? Mm-hmm. So making it like juicy and good enough that they're going to get those high commissions, even if they're not going to build out the teams. You know, we're so delicate in the way we communicate about the opportunity now, for good reason. I mean, we have to be. It's not like we can run around and say, make this and da-da-da. In fact, because you look crazy when you do that. But it is a little difficult to sometimes articulate what's available in terms of people making an income, really learning how to communicate about direct selling, that and making it sexy and making it sophisticated. And that's simple language swaps. And that's something that I've been doing with marketing. And I will tell you, people my age and younger, they don't even question it. They're like, oh, duh, yeah, make money online. Like, they don't even, you know, it's just like a normal thing because everybody wants a link and they want to create income from it. So that was a long way.
No, you highlighted, and it's good. It's a good reminder that, like, what we do now, like the DNA of direct selling, has actually become more normal today, right? In terms of commerce and sharing and links. And, you know, like you said, the next generations, like, they're not even thinking the old paradigm of 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, have a job, like, that's not even the paradigm anymore, right? The paradigm, whether they call it entrepreneur or they call it creator or they call it influencer, they call it YouTuber. The reality is it's a different shift. It is more entrepreneurial. That is very digital, right? That is about sharing things we love. And there's no shame in an affiliate link or a retail commission or a, you know, buy this because I referred it, you know, kind of concept. So it's a good highlight. Like, what we do is actually becoming normalized.
I meet women that have e-com brands, and they literally come to me and they say, how do I create a community? How do I get repeat customers? They're trying to basically copy what we do in direct selling. They want an affiliate model. How can I get people on lifestyle rewards or auto ship or whatever you decide to call it? Let's do influencer events in Spain. It's basically trying to mimic what we do without really having the great compensation benefits. And so I just want anybody listening to hear that. Like, I am so connected to some of the brands you see at Sephora and the lip glosses and the you know, it's like they're literally trying to do what we do so well. And that's community marketing. It's going deep within the community. And it's like, those are your repeat customers. Those are your raving fans, and then make them brand ambassadors. It's like, we've been doing this forever, and now they're trying to figure out how to do it. And so I just want to speak that so everyone can hear that. That's why I'm like, no, this is actually the coolest thing. And when I was in the messy middle, I talked to a huge e-com brand. They were trying to learn what I did in my previous venture. And I was like, that's direct selling, you know? So people need to know that, like, it's the most brilliant ecosystem. When
I think you're spot on, and it makes sense, right? Like retail, companies and brands want to move products and services to consumers. You have options on how you do that. Like, people aren't walking around the mall down the street as much as they used to, right? So like retail, at least the shops in my area, are closing down and becoming experience centers. Like, and even online, you mentioned like e-com brands or like traditional D2C. There's just so many, right? Trying to, get a fixed set of eyeballs, that it's just getting more expensive and harder, which I think the punchline, Emily, is what you highlighted, is people are starting to realize that the way to break through is that community, connection, relationship, experience, which is what we have done for so long well. I want to maybe go deeper down there, because you were super early adopter in this whole like personal branding conversation. Obviously, we went through a season of social media acceleration where like that was marketing, right? Social media marketing, personal branding has been the conversation for a while. Fast forward to where we are today, right? 2026 right around the corner. Well, what does personal branding mean in simple terms for the average entrepreneur today? Yeah. And for someone that's like just making the leap, where do they even begin in that journey?
That's so good. Well, first of all, we all are the brand. You are the brand. And your brand is your reputation. Your brand is your digital footprint. So thinking about what is online or what is not online, right? And so many people I talk to, they're like, man, what's online does not really demonstrate who I really am, or who I want to attract into my business, or what I stand for, and all that stuff. And so really, everyone listening to this, like, you have a brand. You absolutely do. Your brand is your reputation. And back in the day when I got the party started in 2010, I very quickly realized, man, I would just post my products and I'm like, nobody would comment. No one would buy except my mom. And I'm like, I need a way to attract people to this. I need a way to build this thing called trust. And when someone spends 7 or more hours with you online, or like listening to this podcast, you build trust with Blake, because you're hearing him, you're learning him. Trust is everything. And so why I'm so passionate about personal branding is because it's free. And all you need to do is share a little bit about your passions, your interests, your skills. So I call this the PIS if you want to get started. And literally, at the time of listening to this podcast tonight, like, you could even just take a notebook and write down, what are my passions? What are my interests? What are my skills? And what is this actually going to do? It's going to get you thinking about, oh, I actually do have a thing or two I could share online that is truly in alignment with who I am. Could be a certain sports team you like. It could be your faith. You could be very skilled in sales, in leadership, and bringing that to like your social media, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, whatever. You start to then add value, which then attracts people. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to our profession, it's a lot easier to share, to bring people in when you have a platform where people are listening, right? And so I believe that people follow people, people join people. And when you are able to share a little bit of who you actually are, you're going to build that thing called trust. And then when you start your business, or you decide to relaunch your business, or, you're just consistent in it, you're going to bring in so many more people because they are open to listening to you, because you've been generous with who you actually are. And this also protects you from attracting the wrong people, into your business. And so when I decided to go all in and join my recent venture, there was so many people that were like, I've just been waiting to see what you do. And, yes, let's go. And I'm like, I don't know who these people are. But it's because for a decade, I've built my personal brand. And so that's the thing I really want to share is like, this takes consistency, day by day showing up. And it's because of direct selling that I have a personal brand. I cannot say that I would have showed up online every day for the last 15 years if it wasn't for direct selling. And there was really two main reasons. Number one, you need to grow the team and you need to grow the customer sales. So I would show up for that, but then I would show up for my existing team because it was my way to show them I was working today. As funny as that sounds, and it's leadership. And that really helped me build my personal brand. And the longer I've done it, the more I've really fine-tuned it and made it who I actually am.
I'm just picturing someone listening to you right now who maybe has the desire, right? They're like, okay, yeah, this business model is what we want to do. It's where the world is going. I think it's going to become more valuable in the future. Let's say they have that desire and they want to build this thing called a personal brand, but in their head, they're sitting there going like, I'm just not that interesting, or, my life is not that exciting, or people don't really care what I have to say, or I'm not good at Canva or making, the things, or I'm imagining all the things that are instantly going to go in someone's head of why they can't begin. What guidance do you give?
That's something you might have heard of, a limiting belief. If you're in the spiritual world, that's definitely the enemy trying to get you to think so small about yourself. That's the battlefield of the mind. Okay. And you got to win the war on that. And how you do that every single day is by making sure that you're spending time in your spiritual practice and shutting off all that noise. But what I would say is that you need to realize that you can simply take people on the journey with you, and that is going to be content. It's exactly what I have done with all of my businesses. There's this bucket that I call Take Me on the Journey, and I will show the start of something, not just the end of something, not just me on stage. And this is truly what I did. You have to remember, everybody listening, I started this business with an old desk, moved in with someone. I didn't have a nice car, nice things. I mean, I went to the consignment store to get my first blazer. Truly, I did not have money. And I showed people the build of the business. I would show people going to the coffee shop, and I would back up the meeting. So I'd have meetings every 45 minutes when I was doing my first 90-day game plan. And I would even show people, and I would talk to the camera, all right, I'm about to meet with this fitness trainer. I'm going to show him how he can put our products into his gym. I would tell them what I was doing throughout the day. Okay. The next one, we got a no-show. All right. So here's what I'm going to do. This person just no-showed me. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make up for lost time. And I showed the whole thing. Now, this is exactly what you can do. If you're in a home that you're not proud of, right? First of all, you should be grateful that you're living and you have a home and you have this opportunity. But you need to realize that people don't want perfect. They absolutely don't. There's actually something called the Pratfall Effect. And it's almost like when you show you're not perfect, you're more likable. You absolutely are. People want human. And just this easy thing that I bet you would see so much growth is if you actually brought people along your day to day. So even my content now is me day to day. It's me on this call. I'm going to post that I was doing this call with Blake, and then I'm working on my business. I will show people what I'm doing, and that guys, is content. And you don't have to be some expert on anything. If you just show people you taking your products. So every time your hand touches the products, every time, if you're in a service-based company, every time you're talking about your service to someone, show that. Take people along the journey. We had a opportunity event on Tuesday night. I made sure I showed us it wasn't even on stage. It was in a big room. I showed us presenting. I showed us with the products, right? People are interested. And that's one of the easiest things you can do. And then what happens is when you start to gain momentum, people are so inspired because they saw you do something from nothing. Mm-hmm. There's nothing more inspiring than watching someone build something from nothing. Most people just don't want to be seen starting at the bottom. And for that, I always say, get over yourself. You got to make it about people, and you got to get your head and your heart right. And I am very mindful about not consuming a lot of content. You gotta know what is your mission, and you gotta attack the mission. And if you think about why all these shows, why is the Kardashians lasted for 1 million seasons? All they're doing is showing us their life, their businesses they're building. Why is Skim stocks up so much? Why? It's because they show us all this stuff. You can do the same exact thing. And that's actually how I got inspired back in the day. I'm like, well, how do these girls do this? And I'm like, well, I'm going to show the behind the scenes of me doing it, right? I will show when I travel to Australia. In fact, I'll bring my camera girl with. And until you have the ability to do that, you just do it with your iPhone, that's where I would start, because that's how you're going to attract partners in this. They have to see you actually doing something. A winner, a leader wants to follow a leader. And that is not an income thing. That's a decision. And you got to show that you can lead other people. And I think it's the most attractive thing, because I know there's a mom listening to this right now, like, Emily, I got a baby, diapers, throw up, Honestly, that is the most awe-inspiring thing when I see women balancing childhood, pickup and the games and that to me is just the most inspiring thing. And so it's how you decide to look at it.
Emily, that was absolute gold. I hope that right there goes out to 1 million people in this channel. And I hope they hear it and get it. And when you say it, it's so clear and makes so much sense, right? People do want human, not perfection. Showing real does build trust. Taking people on the journey is the thing that's inspiring, right? It's extremely relatable. People don't relate to perfect, and yet it's still so hard because for some reason, right, we're stuck in this old paradigm that we can't show our flaws, that we got to show the after, right? That we got to show the perfect, that if we're not there, people aren't. It's just so backwards, right? So it's almost the counterintuitive approach that works. It's just fascinating. Let's go on that word community, right? So you've talked about, personal brand, made it super clear that anybody can get started today, right? And take steps in that direction. You've mentioned trust, but you've also mentioned a couple times, building a community around that. What does that mean to you? What does community mean to you? And what are some of the key things that we can do as individuals to kind of foster that within our own teams?
I mean, you're nothing without your people, and community is a safe place people can grow and where they can be themselves. And I think if anyone's listening to this right now that has a team or wants a team, you should actually write down what are the values of a community that you want to create. And for me, especially this time around, I really wanted to create a community that was about development. It was about coming back to our values, because so many of the women that I work with, they don't want to do what they did before. They don't want to burn out. They don't want to compromise their family. And they also want to build this business being truly who they are. They don't want to put on a Gucci belt if it's not who they are. for me, it's important as well to not make people feel discounted if they're not at a high rank and all that stuff, because people do things for different reasons. I have changed and become who I am because of this great profession and learning the skills that I never forget that someone might be joining because they just need a group of friends, and like their goal is not to hit it out of the park financially. Their goal is to leave their abusive boyfriend, and when you provide a safe community for people, that is going to create retention for you like no other. People will stay for the community if it feels and is done right.
Absolutely agree. And in a world of not just social media and content, but now we're going into this crazy acceleration season of AI, right? And everything that's going to do to change our world. I think the things we're talking about here and you're highlighting are going to matter even more, right? I mean, it's going to come down to community and relationships and trust and experience and connection, right? And all the things that you have very clearly given to us here that are the differentiator, and will continue to rise in value. Emily, I want to be mindful of time, and I also want to give you time at the end for any sort of closing thoughts or anything on your heart we haven't covered. But before we kind of get to that, can I just do a rapid fire round, like 3 really quick questions? Okay. So these are questions. I ask similar questions to most guests. No right or wrong answer. First thing that comes to your mind. Obviously, the show's called Shift. We're in a season of shift in the world, in our channel, in our businesses. I believe we're kind of in a perpetual season of shift in our lives, just kind of how it works. You've mentioned a lot in this conversation of mindset shifts, perspective shifts, right? Career shifts. If you look at your professional career and you were to narrow down just like one shift in one moment that kind of changed everything for you, right? Or changed the most for you, what shift comes to mind?
I acted like I owned the company.
Same question in your personal life. So it's Emily, brand, business, platform aside, right? Your personal life in any direction. Same question. What's a single shift that has changed, the most, right? Or everything kind of on your personal journey?
I gave my life to Jesus and I got healed. Yeah, for sure.
And the last one, kind of a visionary, fun, aspirational question, because I love the power of our channel. Like I sometimes just sit back and go, it's so big. I mean, there's so many amazing companies, brands, products, services, ideas, right, across the world, right? And supporting all those ideas are people like you, people like me, people like everybody listening that are passionate entrepreneurs bringing those to the world. And I don't know how many of us there are, but there's a lot, right? Whether we call ourselves distributors or affiliates or brand ambassadors or influencers or social sellers or whatever label we want to give, there's a lot of us, right? If you had the power right now to like snap your fingers and give every single entrepreneur across this channel like a single shift, what gift would you give them?
I would like class it up a little bit, level up. And the reason is we need to attract people outside of the profession. Mm-hmm. And so I think a lot of people are only speaking to people in the echo chamber. Mm-hmm. And it's like this circle, and it's strange. So I would say class it up and level up and grow for sure.
I love it. Because in order for all of us to grow at the end of the day, that's where we need to go. Emily, we've covered so much. I've loved this conversation. You sharing your journey, the highs, the lows, the messy middle that we all go through. How through that pain, right, you've connected to your purpose on a whole new level. You are thriving. The world and the channel is shifting. I think this thing you were an early adopter on of brand is marketing, right? And you gave us some super simple, high directive things we could all do instantly today after this, right? To immediately start showing up, bringing people along the journey with us, building trust, fostering community. Before we kind of round out, is there anything left? I mean, any other closing thoughts, anything on your mind, anything on your heart that you want to share with our audience?
Yes. What just dropped into my spirit, I know someone needs to hear this, is be super mindful of who you're taking advice from, who you're listening to, who's pouring into you every day. Because the reason is this: I could go talk to someone right now that would talk me out of direct selling very easily, why I should be doing other things, right? And I could also go talk to another person, like, here's why you need to do it, but you need to like zone in on you and your leadership. And anything is possible for he or she who believes anything. We are given a product or a service to sell, a compensation plan, but you got to go whip it. You got to go make something of it. And there's far too many people that kind of just sit around and they poo-poo and they talk all day about what's not working. And it's like, well, let's talk about how we can actually make a change and see momentum, because it's like, while you're complaining, like, I ate the cheese, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And it's like, go get it. And if it's over, then let it be over, and find the thing that you can actually put your time and talent into, because life is too short. You're too great to waste your time and talent. You need to move, and we need leaders that actually care about people and they want to make a real difference. And in order to lead and to create momentum, you have got to protect your mindset and you got to move your feet. And that's what I would say. So go get it.
I absolutely love it. You just fired me up. Thank you for sharing your time, your perspective, your wisdom, your heart with all of us. Congratulations through all the seasons and everything you're doing. And thank you on behalf of the whole direct selling community, for being a pillar, for being an example, for being a model, and for the impact that you're making and the time that you poured into us. And for everybody listening, this conversation can make a difference. Go back, rewind, listen again and again, apply and share, because this needs to get out. And the only reason we're all here today is really service to you, service to our channel, service to our community, and to inspire and equip everybody to do what Emily said, to go out there and grow and level up, and reach more people to make an impact, because that's where we all need to go. So Emily, I appreciate you. For everybody, you can listen to this and find this on shiftpodcast.com. Share it with someone in your mind, your heart. And until next time, let's make the shift. Thanks, everybody.